There's no way he'll think to look for me here. This old abandoned auto base is the perfect place to hide out. If Primus is fair, maybe there'll still be some cloaking active.
Fair, Sky Shadow? Who said anything about fair? You know, I was just talking it over with my friend here, and he seemed to think you'd been quite the naughty Decepticon indeed. Isn't that right, chum?
Tarn, goddammit, it's not what it looks like!
You see, it's so often the case with bots like you. You try and run and hide, but eventually, Tarn will find.
You think I'm afraid of you, Tarn?
Yes, very.
What's to stop me from blowing you away right here, right now?
It's quite simple, really. You're already dead. I blew out your knee. It was over for you. As soon as you saw me. Yes, you are dead. When you heard my voice sing, it was over for you, friend. Did you dare think for a moment that I didn't know exactly what you were? When you made the list, I learned all your secrets. Now, Sky Shadow, riddle me this. Who dares disrupt my edification?
Tarn, you will accompany me to the end of time. I have a job for you, and do not think for a moment I would have come here without an insurance against your abilities. Mine is a power you cannot begin to comprehend.
Whilst it was a most gracious offer, I'm afraid I'm going to have to decline.
It wasn't a request.
Well. Old Glitchy Boy certainly did well for himself, didn't he, eh? I bet he was stoked to go back to his high school reunion and show everyone the glow up. For reals though, how incredible is it to, finally have mainline representation of like a character that had this big an impact in the comics. He's, people who didn't go in for the last IDW verse might not be super sure who he is, or they might be wondering why that guy from Cyberverse is such a big deal. But Tarn and the Decepticon Justice Division and like the reveal of his origins was all just so phenomenally cool that it is really incredibly satisfying to be able to have him fully realized in the Plastic Fantastic, yours to have in hand to punish any Decepticons who step out of line. I don't know why, but he's always had a David Bowie voice in my mind. One thing that strayed away with the whole look and silhouette and cast of him that I'm loving so much is they did a fantastic job of capturing those like Alex Milne, Alex Milne, like Milne, but a guy who draws this. He favored those long-legged squat torso designs, which I also love, and it's just great to see those proportions carried through on this bad boy. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that we haven't gotten more fully purposed comics created characters. Like, all of those new school artists, when they were drawing and cooking up characters, they worked out a transformation that would work. Hashtag where's my DJD? He is just so pleasing to look at. I love that with the silver, they've gone for some metallic paint apps, same as like the gold on his knees. Then you've also got these awesome matte finishes on some of the purple and stuff like that, as well as the cast grey plastic that's got like a semi-gloss to it. He's also got like this wicked translucent kind of chest plate thing going, but it's just so fantastic, down to the really crispy tampo for that Decepticon insignia right in the middle of his chest. Such a good choice, and such a premium choice to have these painted like this, and that from some angles you can almost get that to glow. I almost feel like if they really wanted to, as well as I'm guessing he's going to be a retool for Bludgeon, but you could also get like, not a terrible IDW Fallen out of this, I reckon. His articulation is in a league all of its own, especially for a Voyager class figure. Just so impressed by that. I think in part it's down to, once again, that awesome Alex Molnir design, that it really just lent itself to being a toy. Like, I'm so sure that when he sat down to pencil this bad mother out, he must have been thinking, alright, so if I transform it like this, then you could hypothetically have articulation there, which would definitely free up this, and because like it comes through. This is just a clever design. So his head is on a pretty decent ball joint. You could probably, it goes all the way around. I don't know why that's something that's always so important to people, but it can do it. But it just means he throws some amazing shapes with his head. You can get so many different, admittedly all mean, they're all mean looks, but you know, he can throw a lot of shapes.
The calendar was great because it gave people a chance to see a side of my versatility.
The shoulders hinge up there, which feels a little high, but that's a tiny quibble, but they hinge up from there and go all the way around. Then you've got this extra joint from here that I assume must mainly be for transformation, but it just also means you can get some extra really sort of tight, like, you know, I'm about to do a Vega and take off my mask kind of looks. Bicep swivel, past 90 degrees on those elbows, wrist swivel, and then articulated hands. Ooh. He then has a really good range out of his waist swivel, universal at the hip that can go all the way forward, back, up. He's doing whatever you need him to do out of those hips. And what I really like is the skirt panel is a piece mounted just kind of on the front of that universal. So that moves with his leg. That's my favorite way of handling the articulation of the Robo boxer briefs that they so often frequent. Then you got a thigh swivel just below that. Really generous knee, very natural knee. You get super forward out of those toes so you can get a wicked sprinter start. They go back and you've got a pretty good tilt out of them. There have been more extreme tilts, but what I like about this tilt, it doesn't shatter the illusion of them being robots by having it bend in a way that it just wouldn't bend like that. It just, God, it feels like the future. It's just so fluid. The shapes he can throw. Oh, it's just such a satisfying hand feel. And given that there's no ratchets, the tolerances, quite tidy. So as you may well have imagined, he's no slouch when it comes to accessories. So first off, you're going to get this lump, this cool lump. Must fill out his tank tread, but for now it's a lump. But then you get these two Megatron-esque blasters. So if you want to have it on his arm, you just mount these on each side. I don't think it super matters, but I like to have the bigger one on the outside. I'm sure there's an official configuration of how you're supposed to do it, but this is how I'm doing it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Right, like that, and then this can plug into either arm, but you know, he's a Megatron boy. He's gonna, you know, he's Johnny Two Hats.
I'm Johnny Two Hats.
Yeah?
Huh?
So, you know, as if this isn't in its own right awesome enough, you can also take it off of that arm, and then it just as easily, right, rotate this piece around, and then that'll now plug in to give him that dope backpack, which still leaves him with another port for weaponizer shenanigans that I'm not going to go into because he just wouldn't do that. That's not his bag. He'd just take their tea cog and drink it with his tea. And, you know, with them on his back like this, that's not an unwelcome or unseemly amount of kibble, especially given what it does, right? I'm pretty sure he wore it both ways in the comics. You can also rock them as individual arm guns or as a weird long gun. Man, there's just something so JoJo's about it, isn't there? Anyway, whilst it may defy comparison, we should probably go ahead and do some comparisons. Try if you dare. So, by way of a comparison, we got to start with Megatron, right? I had thought that maybe this Megatron mold was going to look, I don't know, small or silly next to Tarn, but it kind of does a great job of like representing old and new in terms of, you know, villains in the franchise. Because obviously, by the time we were getting into it with Tarn, Megatron was starting to think that maybe tyranny wasn't the only way, and that didn't sit well. Don't you think this is what they should have done more of? Rather than like rebooting the comics and forcing them to fit closer to the toy designs, they should have just gotten to quicker with making the toy line represent what was happening in the comics. Now, let's have a look at someone who we know the DJD would be very interested to apprehend. And I think this is also a fitting comparison, because I'm fairly certain that, is this only the second time that we've had a purposed IDW created character as a figure? Like, I know we've had like nods with partials and retools and things like that, but like a mold where the first wearer was from that comic run, I think it's just these two. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but way to go. Especially because, you know, Shane McCarthy, Drift's creator, just happens to be from Australia, where I am. Yay! We've now done more than just Outback. His transformation is actually a little bit more involved than one might think. So we'll take this off. What you want to do from here, scooch that around to the back. Back scooch. Unpeg this piece from his back and hinge it down and just have it dangling out the way for now. Rotate these turrets around, and clip them in alongside. Untab that chest, pull these two tank tread pieces to the side. It's not a huge difference, but it's there. At that point, fold away that head all the way down and around. Fold these treads back and around. Come to these arms, crack open the tread, come around to the legs, tab those calves together using that slot tab, fold the feet out. Now, this floating piece here has a little peg that's going to go into that hole there. Then with these arms, there's that port there that's going to tab onto there, so you kind of just, break it out to the side. Fold the arm down and break it out to the side, tabbing that in. Then we're going to fold this piece down and use it to create the tread by sliding it in here, and then the covers kind of just sit on the arms. Then the knees are actually double jointed when it gets to this bit, so pop out the second joint, make sure they stay tabbed together. As you bring it down, these feet are going to tab over there to secure the whole dealio. Then, obviously, to finish the whole look, you can go and get his gun, swing that around to the front, and this time round, those tabs are going to fit into those ports on his feet. And there we have Tarn in vehicle mode. It's interesting, to maintain clearance and I guess to avoid scuffing, he does have these little, like the fake wheels that they put in tank treads sometimes, but they're fake wheels, which is pretty meta. And then the tank turret can do a full 360. You can get a little bit of motion out of the barrels, but not a huge amount if you still want to be able to spin it. I've definitely seen worse tanks, and it's a cyber tank, so, whatever it says it is, it is. I think it feels like it makes sense to me. I do think it's quite cool that the chest plate ends up being kind of the cow catcher on the tank, because it makes sense that you'd kind of want your heaviest armor up the front in vehicle mode, and then, probably want that same protection in robot mode. It's a lovely little design feature. It's a fun transformation. And by way of a quick vehicle mode comparison, here he is with Earthrise Cliffjumper. And that, good people, as they say, is that. That is the Song of Tarn, EP complete. I'm really quite violent. You certainly are. What'd you think? Do you plan on getting him? Have you got him? I can't imagine anyone's going to give this guy a miss. I'm almost more interested to hear from people who don't plan on getting Tarn. Why? Why would you not? He's phenomenal. Anyway, get this toy. Buy the toy. The toy is good. Get it. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, what a little legend. Hit me up in the comments below and let's get nerdy with it.